You gotta get your act together.
You feeling good? Yes. You feeling me? Very good. All right, let's get it on.
Harder, stronger, harder, stronger, harder, stronger.
Hairy, sweaty, macho.
Real physical strength. He'll never stop.
Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. I am your faithful host, Michael D. Catherwood. It's true, I'm your faithful host. Everybody, like, subscribe, do that. Tell a friend because, algorithms and whatnot. I need the help. I'd appreciate it. I think I do a good show. I try. My wife was talking to me about something last night, a different creator who is into health and stuff like that. And she said, the reason I like his content is because you can tell it's something that is really meaningful to him and has helped change his life, and he just wants to impart that to other people. I can't agree. I mean, my wife would never then extrapolate that to what I do, but that's exactly what I hope to do because lifting weights, fitness, dieting, looking better in the mirror, strength, it's all been something bigger than what it really is for me. And I feel like it could be that way for you. I mean, when it comes to me getting clean and sober, when it comes to me developing a career, whatever that may be, and finding a little bit more security in who I was as a person, a lot of that comes from developing myself physically. And I think I would be not the first guy to come up with this notion that physical health helps lead to mental and spiritual health and vice versa. It's kind of a cooperative thing. Your spirit, your mind, and your body. So that's what I hope to do. And I have to thank a listener, a follower of mine, for inspiring today's topic. Todd Rosewitz hit me up on Instagram. I put up a picture of my friend Josh Jobe, who runs the Austin fitness community, and he put in the comments right below, Mike, do you have any tips for a guy who's turning the corner into middle age? And it was an interesting question, and it was one that I wanted to answer, so I did so. I think Todd asked for one tip, and I ended up giving 5 because, again, this was a topic that I think is very important. I don't think people should give up. In fact, if anything, I think you can get a little bit more focused as you start to get 35 plus, 40. But I do think so many people throw in the towel way too early. They start acting like you're 37 and you think you're 88. The reality is it's probably more important if you haven't started taking exercise, physical activity seriously and started taking nutrition seriously. It's more important that you do it now as you start to get to middle age. And if you're already taking it seriously, and I think it's important to step your game up. Okay, so number one tip as you're starting to look into middle age, I would say diet over everything. Prioritize diet. We all have fallen victim to, at some point or another, thinking you can out-train a bad diet. And to a certain extent, if your genetics are good and you're young enough, a lot of times you can. At least temporarily, that will catch up to you. But, when I was 23, 24, I would go through phases where I was eating an incredibly careful, monitored diet because I would be in competitive kind of physique sports. But then I would just go out and party. And, and when I was 19, 20, I was still drinking and using drugs. So, I would just fast food and lots of booze, and that was never a good thing. But I kind of still maintained just because I trained really hard and, I was young. When you're getting into your older age, A, from a health perspective, it's really important that you prioritize diet. And B, you're not going to out-train a bad diet when you're 40, when you're 50. Okay, you're not. A lot of people nowadays, I don't know it's way outside my pay grade. You're not going to out-train a bad diet when you're 30. Something has happened with hormone levels, body fat levels. I think a lot of it, this is something that I could at least speculate with some level of certainty. A lot of it is just we move so much less than generations prior because of technology. It doesn't make us any less lazier or any, but if you're a 28, 29-year-old dude now, it's not the same life as a 28, 29-year-old dude in 1970. Technology has made it so that we're much more sedentary. Okay. So either way, as you start to get older, you really need to understand that diet is the premium kind of stuff. That is the chronic that you need to be focusing on. And you can't outtrain a bad diet. In fact, trying to outtrain a bad diet is going to be somewhere down the line even more counterproductive, because when you're training hard, as you should be, and really looking to progress with your training, you need to feed your body what it needs to build and recover. Okay. So prioritize diet. That is tip number one. Really start to focus in on what you can do to have nourishing, healthy food go in your mouth, and make sure that it's not too much or not too little. Okay. Number two, in the same vein as number one with diet, err on the side of too much protein. I do think that bodybuilders have gotten kids, especially young men, going crazy with like protein where they're eating 2-3 grams per pound of body weight. No, about 0.8 grams is going to be a good solid amount for about everybody. 0.8 grams per pound of total body weight. You're covering all your bases with that, and you're not eating too much. But as you get older, you want to err on the side of too much. Because, and there's plenty of studies to show this, eating too much protein, as long as calories are equated, it's not going to have any negative effect. In fact, sometimes it has positive ones. So, if you're a 35-year-old guy, 40-year-old guy, 50, 45-year-old guy, 46 like myself, go ahead and err on the side of 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you're really thin, maybe 1.2 grams per pound of total body weight. Now, when you're younger, I don't think it's necessary. I do think that, if everything's kind of working out perfectly, 0.8 grams is you're definitely getting enough. But as you get older, you can err on the side of too much. It's really not a big deal. And you want to inspire that protein efficiency, that protein synthesis, and having too much amino acids flowing through your system is not going to be a bad thing. Okay. Number three is still maintain the idea that you're going to focus on heavy lifting with progressive overload, really pushing the limits of what you can do, growing in the amount that you can lift, and for however many reps, progressive overload, the basic idea, you're going in to push yourself every time you set foot in the gym. But exercise selection is a little bit more important now. I love deadlifting. I love squatting. I love bench pressing. I love all these. I love to lift heavy. I do. I never was a guy who wanted to go get the pump. I wanted to slam heavy iron. And I still do. I just have moved away from exercises that are going to put a disproportionate amount of strain on my shoulder girdle, on my lumbar area, and my knees. I do think that if you're really making a concerted effort to push progressive overload with Bulgarian split squats, hack squats, and RDLs and hip thrusts, you don't need to be front squatting and back squatting. I don't think you need to be deadlifting when you're doing heavy weighted chin ups and back extensions. Maybe even some really careful good mornings, lots of rows. You can go around needing to do these exercises that are definitely, even if you're using good form, putting a disproportionate level of pressure on these tender areas. Okay, that now I do think that advice can come a lot easier out of my mouth if you're someone who's been spending years already building that base with deadlifts and squats. Especially, I've never really, unless you're unless you're a power lifter, I've never really been a big fan of bench pressing anyway. It's a great strength exercise, and you can develop a lot of neural activity, a lot of hormone boost, because it's a big compound lift. But I just think like an incline bench is a little bit safer on the shoulders, and it's going to give you a better overall physique. So I've always done incline and a lot of maybe dips and stuff like that. But even here, that's a perfect example. Dips is one of those things, like I still do them, but I got to be a little bit more careful when you're talking about exercises that I'm progressively overloading. Dips do put my shoulders in a precarious situation, and I'm 46, I'm not 26. So exercise selection becomes a lot more imperative. Start looking into safety when you're selecting your exercises, because you want to still continue to do progressive overload. Again, number 4 is going to dovetail off of number 3. Range of motion and exercise quality is way more important now. I think it is actually kind of a good thing to be a little bit sloppy. You see Sam Solik and guys like that. I think that's actually useful and good, especially if hypertrophy is your main goal. You see these guys doing the chest press, and Jay Cutler in the old days, and Ronnie, and all the, the inclines, just like low range of motion, but they're pounding it out, boom, 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 getting a little bit sloppy, getting momentum going into it. Okay, fine. With your rows, getting a little bit momentum, fine. I think that there is value in that. And there's some science to back that up. You want to be moving the weight as quickly as possible, developing as much force as possible, all that stuff. Great. You're an older guy, you're an older gal. I think you got to really think about slowing down your negatives and working on, if you have to drop the weight, fine, but you're getting a full range of motion, really focusing on your body's ability to move through different ranges as best they can and developing strength in all of those ranges. That will be so much more valuable to you than getting 20 more pounds or 2 more reps. And like I said, I don't think that there's a negative downside to kind of like those sloppy pump reps that you see a lot of kids do. You should do those, and it's probably better when you're talking about overall hypertrophy. When you're talking about staying in the gym and keeping going, I think there's a lot of value to really working the stretch position, but not in a dangerous way. So if you have to drop the weight down, fine. I just think that there's a lot of value into quality throughout a larger, more extended, but practical range of motion when you're getting older and starting to really think about, instead of compromising the connective tissue during compound lifts, strengthening it. And final tip, number 5, don't be a little kid. Make sure you get a good night's sleep and take care of your sleep etiquette. Okay? We've all been tempted by our technology, by Netflix, whatever it may be, by partying. Again, just like you can outtrain a bad diet a little bit more when you're younger, you can live through bad sleep a little bit more too. Don't do that. Start to become a grown adult. Start acting like a grown adult and make sure you prioritize your sleep. Get solid sleep. If you have to put your phone away, fine. If you have to do some type of meditative breathing exercise, fine. Whatever it may be, understand it is that important. It's not just a bunch of holistic hippies online telling you, oh, if you don't get your sleep, your growth hormone levels, and you're going to be, half the person you want, and you're going to have no ability to develop your own personality. I mean, a lot of that can get a little bit over the top from the flowing robes people. But no, it is that important. I mean, just think about how much of your life you spend in a sleep state. And it's because that is how you would never just disregard a lot of your waking hours because you're awake and you're conscious. But you spend so much of your life asleep because it is that important, and it's going to help aid everything you do when you're awake. Certainly when it comes to training and nutrition. It's much harder to steer clear of the yummy foods when you're dieting if you haven't gotten good night's sleep. It's so much harder. Your cortisol levels and stuff and your hormones, it just makes it so much more difficult. Cravings become very, very almost insurmountable. Your training is just not going to be as good. You're not going to recover as well. You're not going to see the same level of progressive overload. You're compromising everything that you're doing hormonally, internally, and externally. So, hey, suck it up, be a big boy, be a big girl, and start taking your sleep seriously. All right. So many of my tips today were about diet. So why don't you pick up A Meathead's Guide to Salvation, the best darn diet book you can find. Also for you ladies out there, Flex in the City is a fantastic little training manual designed just for you. They're all available in all the profiles of all my relevant outlets, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that fun stuff. So in this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares, remember, I do. Be good.